Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. In this video, we're going to be checking out the Coinbase One credit card. It is through American Express, and we can see that we can earn up to 4% Bitcoin back on every purchase. Right there stated on the statement, it's through Coinbase if you're unaware of that. So let's go ahead and go through this quickly because I have a really interesting comparison with the Gemini credit card, which I just did a review on. Let's go ahead and scroll down to the very bottom here. So we can actually see exactly how this works. We can hold more and earn more. So the more assets you hold on Coinbase, the more Bitcoin rewards you can earn on your purchases. We'll get into the details in just a moment, but that is basically how it works. 2%, 2.5%, 3%, and then of course 4%. You know, there is no annual fee with the Coinbase One subscription. That is $49.99. No transaction fees, and you can see if you're approved with no credit score impact. A couple more things to note here. We can actually see what the actual experience to work with Coinbase is. We can see that it is 4.25 boosted on USDC rewards. Remember, that is not FDIC insured, so keep that in mind. We have a 5% in regards to staking rewards on Ethereum and Solana, and we also have a $120 transaction fee credits on Base. It's $10 a month and sponsored with a smart wallet gas on Base. And of course, we have zero trading fees on the first 500 in trades, and that is nice to see. As we scroll down here to the very bottom, we can see just a couple more things. And one thing I did want to note here, you can actually see right here in gray that $49.99. You are going to be locked into their ecosystem. And a couple more things here, we can see that a standard American Express credit card will offer. That is just some of the benefits. And of course, we can come down here. We can actually see how the credit card physically looks. You can see that, you know, the inspiration, right? And then we can also see it is metal, stainless steel, the weight, and of course we can sign up for it. If you're interested in this particular credit card, I'll leave links down in the description below. But let's jump on to Perplexity, and I want to compare these two cards, Gemini and Coinbase. Now that we are on Perplexity, I really love this software. It's very good. It's similar to ChatGPT, but it actually pulls directly from the internet. Of course, I will leave links to this in the description below. So check this out. So we can actually start off with a comparison here of American Express versus MasterCard, because remember, American Express actually owns their ecosystem, and that is why it is unique to American Express. It's not like a MasterCard or Visa. They actually own everything so they can maintain it. Here is how the breakdown goes. We can get 4% Bitcoin, but it requires 200K plus on assets on Coinbase, which is challenging because I personally don't know too many people with 200K plus of assets on Coinbase. Versus Gemini, we can get 4% back on BTC, ETH, Solana, and others, and select categories, and we're capped at 300 a month. Of course, that's on gas and transit, and it will vary from time to time. There is no annual fee. We can see that annual fee for Coinbase is $49.99. And of course, if you do have 200K plus of assets, you get 4% back on everything. So in terms of a beginners, definitely Gemini. If you're more experienced and have a ton of assets under management, Coinbase is the way to go. Here's a more comparison on some key notes. If we want to go ahead and look at what a monthly spend would be, right? And what that could accumulate to, we can see the compounding effect for a 4% reward. It is quite staggering. So in 20 years, right? If we were only spending on average, let's say 600, right? And we're compounding that, you can see a comprehensive compounding at 10% annually, right? That's just a figure. Of course, Bitcoin will outperform that likely into the future and continue to outperform even the S&P. But just for the sake of this video, that's what we're doing. At 10% annually, we can see at a $700 a month spend, we can see just how crazy that gets to. We're nearing 700,000, and we can see on the $1,000 spent, we can see how exactly this compounds, right? It is already in $1 million plus. We can see that, and that is what's nice about that 4% back. Let's go ahead into some more calculations here, right? Calculations assume that 4% back on every purchase, right? So we can see that the amount continues to go up. Now let's go more down. So if you qualify for that 4%, but remember, you have to have that 200K, right? Which again, I don't know too many people who actually have that, but let's go on that assumption. So if Bitcoin is appreciating at 10% annually, 6 $800 to $1,000 a month could compound to, look at that, $2,319 to $3,865 at 5 years. And again, it can continue stepping up, right? 12 to 20,000, and then in 10 years, 676,000 to 1.1 million at the 20-year mark. And of course, this is all presuming that the Bitcoin price continues to go up. And of course, I think it will. This is what it would look like. So now let's go and look at the Gemini part of this. So I asked Perplexity to do more research for this on me, and this is why I like this software. Let's say we were to go and just use Perplexity for analyzing Gemini's 4%. This is what it's going to come out with. So it's a little bit different than what Coinbase is. So here's the breakdown. If we're spending $600, okay, a month, we can only get $300 back at 4%, but there's no annual fee. We can see in 5 years that translates to roughly 1,102. And of course, we're only using a 10% annual growth. Keep that in mind just for realistic expectations. If we're spending $1,000, right, and we're going to be rotating this amount, it's about close to $2,000 at $1,836. I think if you have the assets under management in Coinbase, it's definitely worth it to go all in. But if you're just starting out, or if you don't have that amount in Coinbase, I would recommend Gemini. But it really depends on your spending and what you have under management. So we can see as we continue to come down here, we can see exactly what this is going to look like. So for compounding long-term on the Coinbase card, because this is really where it gets interesting. We have the Coinbase, we have the Gemini. This is exactly what the breakdown is. This is a spend cap for the max rate. And then we can see what we're spending on. We can see the annual fee. And we can see as we come all the way back to 5 years, if we compare both. And of course, let's come back. This is Coinbase. This is Gemini. If we scroll to the very end, we can see that Coinbase is leading by a large amount, nearing $4,000 versus Gemini at only $2,000. But again, that's assuming that we have 200K plus in assets under management on Coinbase. So it just depends on where your ecosystem is and where your money is. If it's in Coinbase and Bitcoin, amazing. I would definitely take advantage of this card. I think it's worth it. It will pay for itself in the long end. And of course, we can see the key differences here listed by Perplexity. Flat percent is 4% back on BTC on the high assets, best for those who are already in the ecosystem. And I think Gemini is just best for overall spend. If you're going to get gas, if you're on transit, it's different things. Of course, the compounding effect is definitely different. And it just depends on where you like to work in the sense of Gemini or Bitcoin in Coinbase. Overall, here's the conclusion. Coinbase One delivers a higher compounding returns for long-term BTC holders at common spending levels. Beating Gemini for users focused on maximizing Bitcoin rewards outside of dining/gas categories. Optimization, Gemini's instant and diversified crypto rewards may be preferable for users seeking flexibility or no fees, but the total compounding value is generally less for most spending patterns. That is the conclusion from Perplexity. Let me know what you think, and I want to know what credit card you're going to go with. Me personally, I have the Gemini credit card. I will leave a link in the description below for $50 on your opening of the account. We each get 50, which is real nice. Go ahead and let me know what you think. As always, thank you for supporting this channel, and I'll see you in the next video.